Hello, everyone. My name's Cash Miller, and welcome to Emerging Brands, Franchises on the Rise. I'm the CEO of Titan Media Worx. We do podcast production, and I love recording podcasts. We are talking to some of the great franchises that are out there. I've got with me today Andrew Scherzer, the Flying Biscuit Cafe. We're talking food. Food is always fun, and some of these restaurant concepts that are out there, especially this is a morning, afternoon concept. I mean, they got some really good menus. If you've never been to such a restaurant, I mean, you got to check them out. They're really good. Andrew, great to have you on. Tell us about the Flying Biscuit Cafe and yourself, what you do with the company.
Yeah, well, hi, Cash. Thanks for letting me, come on this podcast. I'm excited to do it. I work for the Flying Biscuit Cafe. We started in 1993 on the east side of Atlanta in Candler Park. Opened our doors on October day at 7 a.m. And we bought the company back in 2014. So we started franchising in 2016. But it's a Southern-inspired menu, comfort food, made with primarily fresh ingredients, and it's a full service breakfast concept.
Yeah, it's gotta love Southern food. I mean, I'm in Tennessee. It's funny, my kids, I'll get, take like chicken and waffles and stuff. And to this day, even though they've really grown up, they don't understand these things. And I'm like, are you kidding? Chicken and waffles is like one of the best things that exists in the South. I mean, and there's so many different great foods. Now, when we're talking to different franchises, like I say, you said that you guys just started franchising in like 2016, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, how many locations have you guys been able to put together? Because people don't really understand, like, it takes time for franchises to grow. And also some franchises, when we think of McDonald's or we think of, some of these really like old ones and stuff, they don't realize like how old some franchises like a Dunkin' Donuts, that kind of thing really is. But there are a lot. 2016 is nothing. You're a young franchise, really.
Yeah. I would say so. We're sitting at 31 locations right now. So over that time, I mean, we've grown a good amount. But you're right. It takes a lot to corporately, from the infrastructure side of everything, to grow a franchise. And I think from 2016 till today, our group's done a really, really good job of perfecting each silo, from marketing to development to sales, and mainly to operations. We've done a really, really good job of buttoning up everything. So we're ready for that influx of franchise candidates to approach us, and we're ready to grow with them.
Yeah, well, restaurant, there's been a few things for like restaurant and breakfast clubs. Hold on. Okay, so when we're talking like breakfast and lunch concepts, I mean, these types of concepts have been on the rise, quite a bit lately. There's other chains and stuff. So why, what makes the Flying Biscuit like really great? Tell us about, like the concept itself, how these restaurants operate, the menu, because everybody loves, I want to know what kind of food are you offering? We know Southern fare, but, get into it a little bit. Why are you guys different than some of the other deals that are going on?
Yeah, and this brand's incredible. I mean, there's so many different competitive advantages that we have. I'll probably narrow it down to about 5 for you, but you started off on the right foot there. The breakfast sector is alive and well. There's not a main front runner when it comes to full service breakfast, which makes it a little bit less competitive. Great for us, great for franchisees. We have 30 years of thriving business that creates good, positive brand awareness. Not only that, but it helps create, elevated AUVs. So our average unit volumes are a little over 1.9 million for our franchise-owned stores. It helps create a proven system. It helps create good relationships with our vendors. But mainly, it eliminates a lot of variables in the restaurant business when you have that history. We've eliminated a lot of those variables that some of the younger brands have yet to eliminate. So we just really want to capitalize on our value of our capabilities. Another great thing about us, we're open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. As a franchisee or a manager or a staff member, it creates a better lifestyle for you. The restaurant lifestyle is grueling. You could
Hmm.
start your day at 7 a.m. and be done at 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
Some people can do that, some people can't. But I would say most at the end of the day cannot continue that lifestyle for a very long time. So from that 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. mark, you're done in the early afternoon. You can
Mhm.
go home, you can watch your kid's soccer game, basketball game. It just creates a better lifestyle for you.
Well,
Another thing that separates us from the pack is, our catering. So we
okay.
brought on catering during COVID, and we've really perfected it since then. It's helped increase our AUVs and in some store sales nearly 20%.
Wow.
Those third party delivery services really helped us out too. But you're right. I think our main competitive edge would be our food. So we do serve biscuits. We are the Flying Biscuit, so we're known we're known for our biscuits and our grits. But we have a full menu. So we do have chicken and waffles. We do have pancakes. We do have scrambles.
Hmm.
We have vegetarian option too. All of our sausage is turkey sausage. For the round sausage and for the flat sausage, it's chicken sausage. So if
Hmm.
you want to come in and eat that greasy food and have a pancake and be a little bit unhealthy, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you can also come in and go to the vegetarian side. You can go to the turkey sausage side, and you can have a light breakfast and still feel good the rest of the day. So there's just so many different competitive advantages that we have when it comes to competing with other breakfast brands. But I feel like these are probably the top five that really sets us apart from the pack.
I got to admit, when I first saw the name, the Flying Biscuit Cafe, there's a small chain in Missouri that they advertise throwed rolls. Like I can't think of the name of the restaurant
It's
now.
Lambert's.
Yeah, Lambert's. Yeah, I kept
Yep.
thinking Landry's, but yeah, Lambert's. And so when I saw Flying Biscuit, I had this, thought in my head that, there's going to be biscuits getting tossed across the restaurant and stuff. And I'm like, I hope they're not hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Get hit
they're
in the
not
head.
hard. And if a franchisee wants to come in and they want to say, hey, I want to start throwing biscuits around, we're going to say, hey, give it a shot. Try it out. We're pretty open when it comes as a franchisor when it comes to that and ideas that franchisees have. If
Well,
anybody's listening and you want to come become a franchisee and throw some biscuits around, you're more than welcome.
that's also really important when you have a franchise. You bring that up because a lot of older franchises, they have figured it out, granted, but they
Right.
can have a very strict system. And franchises, I always remember, you ever watch the movie The Founder?
Yes.
Yeah. So remember when he goes to McDonald's and he sees them having chicken on the menu and it's sloppy, the place isn't really taken care of, and they're like, well, this is what people want. I'm like, that's not the system. So
Right.
you want to have, that's the point of a franchise is, you want that, the founders, the operators of the, what I call the corporate, they put together a system. You want to be able to follow it, but you don't want it so rigid that you don't introduce new ideas. So you're allowing for that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you have your brand standards. You have what franchisees need to do in order to stay in compliance. Now that's your nuts and your bolts, right? Now, if you
Sure.
want to increase some sales, we're bringing on a franchisee down in the Houston market, and they asked if they could stay open until 3 a.m. Well, that was the first time I was ever asked that being part of
Yeah.
this organization. And
Yeah.
so luckily the president of the company was on the phone with me and he said, you know what, you can try it. We're not going to say no to a lot because we understand that demographics and markets are different all
Right.
across the nation, especially in the Southeast. And
Hmm.
so we're giving these franchisees an opportunity to help increase sales. So if it comes down to increasing sales and if you have an idea, we'll back you on that, and we're behind it, and we want to see if it does increase sales because if this 3 a.m. Opening does
Yeah.
thrive in a Houston market, man, there's so many more markets out there that have success in the late mornings, in the late night, early mornings.
Right.
You've got Vegas, you have Chicago, you have Nashville, where it's more of a party scene, and
Hmm.
we'd love to be in those markets.
Yeah, my thinking is they're probably looking at like a Waffle House type, that are open all the time, and they at
Right,
least want to give it a shot. And it may or may not work. Now it's going to be if it doesn't work, it's to the detriment of the franchisee, not the
right.
corporate. They took a chance, but as long as they know, okay, this isn't working, then to cut it off. Uh, Earlier you mentioned, like uh, staff and stuff. And what I'm wondering is like, how many people does it take typically to operate? Because we know hiring, especially for restaurants and whatnot. So what does the staff actually look like? If I walked in a store and I'm saying, because you have some concepts, you've got, table servers are coming by. You've got
Hmm.
some that are like, get it, and you go find your seat and everything, but you're not going to be waited on necessarily. You'll have people maybe come around, clean up. What does the actual inside operation look like for the staff, and then how many people does it take to operate a restaurant? Because based on your hours, it's really what, a one shift thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, we break it down into two shifts though. But
Okay.
luckily, the restaurant labor market is back to almost pre-COVID levels, which is great.
Okay.
It's great for the whole franchise community. But we are open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So your staff can vary. I'm going to say anywhere from 15 to 35 employees. Now these employees are a little bit different than your rigmarole quick service restaurant employees. And
Okay.
so you have a hostess, you have cooks, you have line cooks, you have a general manager of the store, and then you have waiters and waitresses. So our employees tend to stick around a little bit longer because I mean there's integrity whenever it comes to their job now. They're not just an hourly employee at a fast food
Hmm.
restaurant and they can't hop around from concept to concept. Normally, they tend to stick with us a little bit longer. We have a waitress down in Atlanta. She's been with us for over 17 years.
Oh.
She's started a family. She's bought a car. She's bought a house, all under a waiter waitress's salary and wages. And so it's a concept where the employees are going to stick around a little bit longer than your normal fast food joints.
Is this the type of restaurant where tips are expected, or is it because you mentioned she's bought a house and stuff? So
Yeah,
does it go and fall under that set of rules?
yeah. So it's a full service restaurant. So
Okay.
you want to tip your waiters and waitresses, but the menu's built for speed. So we're still getting orders out within 5 minutes, which is,
Wow.
is is good on every end. The quicker the food comes out, usually the better the tip is.
Hmm.
But we do have people that come in and they want to have a bridal shower there. They do want to have like a wedding shower there because we serve mimosas, we serve wine. Um,
So you got to get a
yeah,
liquor
we have
license
some
too, right?
locations that's correct. Yep, and that's an option. The majority of our locations do take advantage of that, and then we have some locations that do have a full bar too. So you can sit down there, you can start watching College Game Day at 8 o'clock in the morning with a beer or some wine, and you can sit in the restaurant and watch as many games as you want.
Okay, so that gets me into a little bit of the atmosphere because you mentioned being able to watch games and stuff. So we've got a restaurant that's potentially outfitted with TVs and things, yeah, and let's say potentially a bar, certainly drinks. Yeah, so it's almost. I mean, you're describing to me what is like an evening bar concept that I'm taking advantage of in the morning and the early afternoon.
Yeah, and brunch too. Brunch is getting to be a little bit more popular.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's a concept that does well in pretty much every demographic. We have some stores down in Florida, in Gainesville, on the college campus.
Oh yeah,
That store does incredibly well. We have a store just south of there in the Villages, Florida. I don't know if you're familiar with that
yeah.
market,
Hmm.
but it tends to be an older market where you can go and you can sit down and you can talk about your day with your friends.
Yeah.
And then we have a location in the Buckhead area in downtown Atlanta which is a little bit more, white collar. So you can have those business owners and employees come in and have a decent meal. So it speaks to all different types of demographics.
That's good. And like I say, it's built around breakfast food, which is really good because I think, there's not a ton of concepts that are built around that. I know, people love breakfast food, but they don't always want to eat it during breakfast,
Right.
So that's why I like the fact that you go to like 3 p.m, because, like I say, I know for me, like I say, I don't eat breakfast, it's coffee in the morning, but, come lunchtime and stuff, like I don't, you have the traditional fare and people want to be able to break
Mhm.
away from that. So you guys kind of fit, that space and, being able to provide an offering that says, hey, you can have, your preferences in the afternoon that you're not going to get a lot of other places.
Right. And if the analytics and the demographic, speak to have, a dinner menu, we will do that. So we do have a couple stores that are open a little bit later. And again, we leave that up to the franchisee. It does help them out with some sales. The menu is just a little bit different. We add to it a little bit. But again, catering to those franchisees and their needs.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about, for one, like the investment in this. Okay. And what does the like build outs look like too? Because like how large are these stores typically from a square footage standpoint? And what do you also do? And I know this is like a multi-tiered question, but, because you've mentioned a few times the analytics, so you do check into market. So if you're a franchisee, potential franchisee, you're interested in buying into this concept. How are you, helping with like site selection and things like that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So, in a perfect world, we're looking for about 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
So not too small, not too big. We have some stores that are definitely smaller than that, and some stores that are definitely bigger than that. So if you're smaller, we want a little bit more outdoor seating, and we can do that because our stores are primarily in the southeast. Um, every group that we bring on is a little bit different. Every group that I meet with is a little bit different. So ideally, we want to have some restaurant experience. We're talking to a lot of restaurant groups out there that they understand franchising and they understand development.
Yeah.
So they'll send us locations and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And we'll say, "This looks great." We'll run some numbers and say, and we'll at the end of the day, we'll sign off on it. If we bring in some groups that don't have a ton of restaurant experience and they need help with site selection, you let us know when you have identified a site, and we'll get a plane ticket out there the next day and we'll review it with you. If you don't necessarily understand the site selection process, then what we'll do is we'll have you get in a car with us and we'll drive around. We'll drive the market. We'll say, this is a site, this is a demographic that we'd like to be in, and we show them the areas that we like to be in, and they can go look for sites, and then we can review it and sign off on it at the end of the day. If you're just a little bit weary about site selection.
Sure. So, what kind of investment though do you have to make? Because the 3,000 square foot stores, it's a pretty big space for any kind of concept. Period. Like whether it's and restaurants tend to be on the more expensive side as far as opening.
Yeah. So your initial investment, you're looking at anywhere from about 675,000 to $1 million. And you're right, it does come down to that square footage of the store and what you're getting with that site as well.
Mm-hmm.
As we grow as a concept, I do vision us having our initial investment come down a little bit because we're going to create better relationships with our vendors, and then that will be passed down to those franchisees.
Yeah. So what do you guys look for? What makes it successful? Because you mentioned working with some restaurant groups, and there are some that have bought up a lot of or opened a lot of locations. I mean, this is like, it's like an empire within an empire because,
Right.
Franchising can be about that. And this has happened not just in restaurants, but others where, you have companies that have built up and they have multiple locations. They've become really good operators, honestly, and by operating more stores, it's really good. So what do you guys look for in franchisees, especially if you're working with, individuals, like, who's going to be successful at this, if they want to, if they buy into this concept, because it's a significant investment.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, our candidates must meet the minimum financial requirement. So our minimum financial requirement is 200,000 in liquidity and a
Okay.
net worth of 800,000. Now, I do love talking to restaurant groups, but also love talking to people that have managed people in the past.
Okay.
Because if you were to come on as an owner operator, if you have that experience, you're essentially taking what you've learned managing in the past, just bringing it to a different concept.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said earlier, you'll have your hourly employees around 15 to 35 of them. Just really depends on your volume. So to me, there's a lot of different variables what to look for in prospective franchisees. But I would say, if you're passionate about it, that's the main criteria that I look for, because you'll be doing the same thing over and over again, 5 to 7 days a week. And so we want you to wake up and think, all right, I got to go into work today. I got to do this, and this, rather than waking up and going, man, I got to go into work today and I have to do this, and this. So if you're passionate about it, you really don't have to have any restaurant or managerial experience, because we're going to provide you with the systems and procedures, and we're going to set some expectations for you too. So if you're worried about going into it, our franchising process is you'll view some corporate stores and you'll view some franchise-owned stores, and if you like what you see, then you can go through with it. If you don't like what you see, it's kind of like, well, you don't want to experience this for many years, and then end up at the end of the day having to sell your store or close your doors. So
Yeah.
passion is what I really look for.
Yeah, I think with any business, it's really important. Like a lot of people, especially when you're making such a significant investment, you really got to, like enjoy what you do.
Right.
We spend so much time at work in general. Like if you don't want to walk in the doors, that reflects, on everybody else. It's eventually you see this, like say the employees notice and stuff, and it's also it will be to the detriment of the business, eventually as well, because if you don't want to be there, how are you going to be at your best, operating at your best and stuff, so,
creating a good culture, you want to start off the day on the right foot and just create that culture in your store that, hey, I'm here to serve the customers, but also at the same time, have fun while you're at work too.
Yeah. So how long does it take, from the standpoint, like if somebody signs up and said, they buy a franchise, what does the process look like from the point of, hey, I'm interested, I want to get going, they sign the docs, to, hey, our doors are open? What does that look like?
Yeah. Once you sign that franchise agreement, send in that franchise fee, then we're committed to you. And it usually takes, site selection is the toughest part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on how quickly you can get a lease signed. But we can do, I would say, anywhere from about, 3 to 8 months, you can get a store up and running. So I would say that's a good benchmark for that.
Yeah, a lot of it's, because the site obviously is going to be your most important thing. You don't want to just settle on anywhere, because it's going to be a huge difference maker, to the success of the business. What's the royalty fee that, people, franchisees expect to pay? What's the marketing look like? And is there any kind of fees that go with that? What kind of support does the organization give?
Yeah, so the royalty fee is 5%. Which I think is below par in the restaurant franchise industry. Advertising is 2%, and so we know that 2% is coming from your top line sales, and so we have a seasoned chief marketing officer that comes from a prominent food group that has many years of experience, and we're kind of shifting lanes into different media outlets on marketing. So we seem to have a lot of success with, social media, and then, SEO and Google paid ads. They seem to be doing well for us. We do a lot of sales from catering And so our online presence, using
Yeah.
different portals and outlets for catering, has seemed to help increase our sales too.
Yeah, the catering, especially because being a digital marketer, there's only so many people search for restaurants in general.
Mhm.
But yeah, but catering they do search for regularly because it's not something you have a common need for. So you don't know which restaurants may provide it. Let alone different types of food that you may want, and you get a lot of because you're a breakfast
Mhm. And it
type
seemed to
food.
be taking off,
Yeah, you'll get
a
a lot
lot
of
of,
morning orders and stuff.
yeah, a lot of word of mouth out there too. And then,
Hmm.
we stick to some, traditional advertising on paper as well when it comes to local marketing.
Yeah. So this is I mean, it's it's a significant investment, but it's a really good opportunity because you mentioned that sales number earlier on. I think it was like 1.9 million or something.
Correct. Yeah.
That's pretty solid for any restaurant, I would think. Um, you know, what else is there? Any other last things that makes the Flying Biscuit Cafe special?
Yeah, well, it helps having that 30 years of thriving business. That's really,
Hmm.
to me, that's the tough work to put in.
Yeah.
So we've already put that work in. It helps not only operationally, but it helps with marketing. It helps with vendors, food vendors too. And so
Hmm.
we have some proprietary items uh, that we have on our menu that keeps customers coming back. But I feel like the main thing is, we have a great corporate team. We understand franchising. We've already established a larger franchise and sold it in the past, and we've worked with hundreds of franchisees from the past. And so we understand that in order for our franchisees to succeed, is you have to have a really, really good corporate infrastructure. So I work with a great team that not only understands the franchise world, but they're passionate about the Flying Biscuit Cafe. The full service breakfast lane, in my opinion, is wide open,
Yeah.
and we want to have as many cars in that lane as we can. Our 30 years experience really gives us an edge, and we want to show prospective franchisees that.
Yeah. I think, like I say, if you're thinking about owning a franchise, and because I know restaurants, yeah, there are a lot of different concepts. Some are really good. Flying Biscuit Cafe is definitely one because you need that experience.
Mhm.
If you've ever operated a restaurant before, they can end up having very slim margins. So seeing that top line number, because the larger it is, the better your overall, amount of money you're going to be able to make is going to
Exactly.
be.
Yep.
That's really important. Yeah, that's because they have volume. And, so if you're looking at getting into a restaurant concept, that 30 years experience is huge. If you're going to partner up, because restaurants are difficult, they are
Yes.
difficult to run. You need to really have good partners. So buying into a franchise, especially a restaurant franchise, established brand, that's important because you're going to have other business owners, other franchise owners that, they've got their different experiences. In this one, you've also got somebody that's willing to listen, make adjustments, let franchisees try different things. That is, more rare than you would think in the
Right.
franchise world. And so that's really important. I think, if you're thinking restaurants, Flying Biscuit's one to definitely take a look at. Andrew, this has been great. How, you are in the business of, talking to potential franchisees, in your role. How would people get a hold of you to learn more about the Flying Biscuit Cafe?
Yeah, well, I would say first and foremost, go to our website, flyingbiscuit.com. We will be having a new franchise, a new website dedicated to franchising, hopefully by the beginning of the year. We just brought on, teamed up with Top Fire Media, which is, one of the most prominent franchise marketing groups out there. But right now they're onboarding us. So in the meantime, you can reach out to flyingbiscuit.com. You can go to my LinkedIn and reach out to me. You can shoot me an email. It's just ascherzer@biggamebrands.com. Or you can give me a call on my cell, 217-836-2898.
Okay, well, that's everything on this episode of Emerging Brands. My name's Cash Miller. I'm the host. I'm also the CEO of Titan Digital and Titan Media Worx, which, with the case of Worx, we do podcast production. This has been great. I love talking to these, people that are so invested in the franchises. If you're thinking about getting into business, or you're an experienced entrepreneur and you're looking for a new concept, this is one to definitely consider. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode.